Coming up on this Monday edition of Newsline at Noon, no end in sight to the months-long gridlock in Parliament after the ruling party rejects the opposition's proposal to give the bereaved families more of the say in getting to the bottom of April's ferry disaster. A 6.0 magnitude earthquake, the strongest in 25 years, rattles Northern California, injuring more than 100 people and damaging historic buildings in downtown Napa. Plus, Korea claims victory in the Little League World Series Championship for the first time in 29 years, defeating Chicago 8-4 in the final. These stories and more on Newsline at Noon. It's new Monday, August 25th here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in. Live from Seoul, I'm Eoh Jin-joo.
It's very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broome. It's been more than 4 months since the Seoul ferry sank off Korea's southwestern coast, killing more than 300 people. A tragedy which continues to cause the nation great pain and sorrow has also completely paralyzed Parliament. That's
right. Rival lawmakers are still wrangling over a special bill that would set up an investigation into the accident. Choi Sun reports.
Will Korea's two main political parties ever find a way to loosen up the political logjam caused by April's ferry disaster? After facing strong resistance from hardliners within the opposition party and the ferry victims' families over the so-called Seoul ferry bill, the floor leader of the opposition party on Sunday proposed bringing in the families to the negotiating table.
It's time for the ruling party to accept the tripartite proposal. We need to rid of the confusion and mistrust from the previous negotiations.
The proposal was, however, quickly rejected by the ruling party.
The idea of legislating through a tripartite consultation is a dangerous one that would violate our representative democracy and the parliamentary system.
The ferry victims' families are demanding that a probe committee, which includes lawyers and legal experts selected by the families themselves, have the authority to investigate and indict. The ruling party says that would destroy the principle of criminal law. The months-long political discord has left the parliament in paralysis, with a lineup of major economy and reform-related bills kept in limbo. Ruling party leader Kim Moo-sung on Monday urged the opposition to work toward a swift passage of the economic bills that are closely linked to the people's livelihood. The opposition party, its members divided, is expected to decide later Monday whether to continue to fight for the ferry bill, which would put other bills and parliamentary proceedings at risk. Choi Arirang News.
The government is tightening the reins on state subsidy programs to prevent the misuse of funds. Officials from the Finance Ministry said Monday they will strengthen their monitoring of the programs and are in the process of developing a system that makes public a broader range of information on state subsidies, including details on how the money is being spent. Now, this comes amid mounting criticism that state money is being used for corrupt practices. Government data shows that roughly $166 million were lost due to irregularities last year. Military officials and experts in Korea will meet this afternoon to discuss ways to reform the nation's military after a slew of violent incidents at frontline units. A senior member of the Military Culture Reform Committee says the meeting will focus on ways to change the military judicial system, as well as the possible establishment of a military ombudsman at the National Assembly. The committee consists of 113 military officials and experts and is co-headed by Defense Minister Han Min-gu and Shim Dae-pyong, head of the Presidential Committee on Local Autonomy Development. The bullying death of an Army private in April and the latest case of a soldier who required extra attention that shot himself dead during a live fire exercise have sparked a fierce debate about harassment and the culture in Korea's military. And moving on, U.S. President Barack Obama is planning to shake up his team in charge of North Korea policies. Sources in Washington on Sunday say the president is expected to name Sidney Saylor, the advisor for Korea policy at the White House National Security Council, as the new U.S. special envoy to the six-party denuclearization dialogue. The outgoing U.S. ambassador to South Korea, Sung Kim, will most likely replace Glenn Davies as the special representative for North Korea policy. Despite the new faces, watchers say the Obama administration's North Korea policy will remain the same.
Now, North Korea is continuing to lash out against the ongoing joint military exercises between South Korea and the U.S., but the regime has held back from test firing any missiles for well over 1 week now. Watchers say North Korea is keen to avoid upsetting Seoul ahead of the upcoming Asian Games, which will be held in the South Korean city of Incheon from the middle of next month. Our Son Jung-in has this report.
2 days before Seoul and Washington kicked off their annual 2-week Ulji Freedom Guardian exercise, the North Korean military began making threats.
If we decide South Korea's small and big military bases will turn into a sea of fire and a heap of ashes.
Pyongyang has long denounced the drills as a rehearsal for an invasion of the North. But since it fired 5 short-range rockets into the East Sea on August 14th, the North has shown some restraint. Instead, it has proposed talks to discuss logistics for its athletes and cheering squad at the upcoming Incheon Asian Games.
The North Korea proposed talks on the practical issues related to the Asian Games through an exchange of letters.
Experts view the North's latest contradictory moves of threats and offers of dialogue as a typical stick-and-carrot strategy.
As opposed to their threatening remarks in written words, I think the North will propose more dialogue in the future to send its delegation to the Asian Games.
Many experts believe inter-Korean talks will resume after the joint drills are over, but most agree it will be difficult to attain many tangible results on issues such as holding family reunions and resuming tours to North Korea's Mount Kumgang Resort. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, in some economic news, domestic economic news, helped by the government's stimulus measures, domestic consumption is showing some strong signs of rebounding. Our Kim Ji-yeon details how consumer confidence is slowly but steadily recovering.
The economy is finally showing signs of a recovery after months of sluggish domestic consumption following April's ferry disaster. The country's major department stores recorded average sales increases of over 4% last month compared to the same period last year. The Ministry of Strategy and Finance says sales of goods that indicate an increase in private consumption also rose in July on year. These including automobiles and gasoline, which were up by around 1% and 2% respectively. Credit card transactions in Korea also edged up more than 5%. Signs of a recovery can also be found in real estate, where transactions increased more than 90% last month compared to the same period last year. The improvements come after the government eased measures, including the loan-to-value and debt-to-income ratios that limit the amount of money people can borrow from banks when buying a house. Experts attribute the recovery trend to increased consumer confidence as a result of the economic measures unveiled last month by the Finance Ministry. Lee Hyun-sang from the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry told the Joseon Daily that the government needs to continue its deregulation drive and put more pressure on the National Assembly to pass bills that are designed to improve the livelihoods of the people. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, if you thought you'd heard that Koreans work a lot, then you'd heard right, because a new study shows Koreans work the second longest hours among OECD nations. The data, which was released on Sunday, shows that Koreans worked an average of 2,163 hours last year. That's about 45 hours per week. With that number, Korea only falls behind Mexico, which is at the top with the highest number of working hours of 2,237. From the year 2000 to 2007, Korea actually ranked number 1 with the most number of working hours until being overtaken by Mexico in 2008. You might be thinking, well, which is the country with the least number of working hours? Well, it is the Netherlands with around 1,300 hours. That's under 30 hours a week. Well, now it's that time of the week for our segment, Industry Insight.
Now, Korea is one of the most wired and tech-conscious nations in the world, but a number of cultural factors can make it difficult for young, up-and-coming entrepreneurs.
Yes, our Connie Kim takes a look at some of the challenges facing Korea's tech startups.
Facebook, Yahoo, Apple. These are just some of the big names that started out small in Silicon Valley. Their big ideas eventually reached consumers, but only after the right financial backers came along. Here in Korea, things can be a bit tougher for startups. 1,500 Silicon Valley tech companies raised $25 billion last year. The total for Korea-based startups? A mere 6/100 of that. Korea saw explosive growth in venture capital starting in the 90s, but only about a little more than half currently survive past the 5-year mark today. Well, to get a better sense of where things stand today, I talked with one startup, Shaker Media, a video creating company that is thriving. Take a look.
Making memories last is what Shaker Media does. With its instant video creating platform, Shaker makes dragging and dropping simple and creating professional quality videos easier.
I think of video as the most powerful storytelling medium. When you and I are here face-to-face talking, that's a powerful storytelling medium. And so I thought that it would be necessary and desirable for many people, everyone, not just the people with the big production budgets and the fancy expensive cameras to be able to do video, but for everyone to do great video.
It also helps small businesses advertise, in a way helping the Park Geun-hye administration's creative economy drive in search for fresh, innovative ideas for growth engines.
Video ads have 3 times the click-through rate of mobile advertisements. They are effective, but small businesses just couldn't participate because they couldn't afford to spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on producing a beautiful video advertisement.
Born 3 years ago, Shaker now serves customers all throughout Asia and the Americas, having raised about $3 million as of May this year.
So I know it's quite tough for Korean venture companies to get investment. Where did you get the investment from?
There is a lot of venture capital available here in Korea today. Angel investors are very active. We've also raised money from Facebook executives. We've also raised money from Korea's largest internet company, NHN Investment, and Korea's largest steel company, POSCO Investment.
But that's not the reality for the majority of startups in Korea. Having to break ground on the back of financial guarantees or loans can turn off a lot of young entrepreneurs, especially in a business environment where investing through M&As is not as prevalent as it is in, say, the United States. But Lee says Korea is the market to try out new things as long as young entrepreneurs utilize a strong IT infrastructure and low entry barrier for startups in the country.
There is a vibrant local market here in Korea, an incredible test bed to test your ideas with a very receptive local market that's ready to try new things.
Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Institutional investors here in Korea also.
And time now for a look through the international headlines we're following on this Monday afternoon. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, standing by at the news center.
Eunice, a powerful earthquake has rocked California, prompting the state governor there to declare a state of emergency.
That's right, Mark. It wasn't the big one many Californians have been bracing for, but the magnitude 6.0 tremor did cause considerable damage in the state's famed wine country. Our Shin Se-min has this story.
The strongest quake to hit California in a quarter-century saw scores of people hospitalized, cause houses to burst into flames, and damage scores of buildings in California's Napa Valley. A 6.0 magnitude earthquake rocked California's wine country at around 3:20 a.m. on Sunday local time, with the epicenter less than 10 kilometers southwest of Napa. The earthquake was felt over a huge portion of California in San Francisco, but the most powerful tremors were recorded in Napa and Sonoma County. More than 30 aftershocks followed the quake, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Officials at Queen of the Valley Medical Center in Napa say at least 6 people have been critically injured, with 120 less seriously hurt. California Governor Jerry Brown has declared a state of emergency and said state officials were working closely with state and local emergency managers, first responders, and transportation officials. California is not a safe zone when it comes to earthquakes, as it sits right above the Pacific's ring of fire, where earthquakes and volcanic eruptions occur often. In 1906, San Francisco was struck by a 7.8 magnitude quake that killed over 3,000 people and destroyed 80% of the city. In 1989, another powerful quake hit in a similar area, killing more than 60 and injuring hundreds. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And over on the southern side of that ring of fire, central Peru was hit by a magnitude 6.9 earthquake this morning at a depth of 101 kilometers. There were no immediate reports of damage or injuries there. Let's go ahead and turn next to Syria, where an American journalist kidnapped in 2012 has been released by his radical Islamist captors. His name is Peter Theo Curtis. He was being held by the Al-Nusra Front, an al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria that has been fighting the government of President Bashar al-Assad. Now, reports say Curtis was released to UN peacekeepers in the Golan Heights Sunday, where he was met by U.S. government officials and moved out of the country. His family said they were deeply relieved and grateful for his return, while thinking constantly of the other hostages who are still being held. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, who confirmed the release in a statement, said the United States was using every diplomatic intelligence and military tool it holds to secure the release of other Americans being held hostage in Syria. Meanwhile, UK officials say they are close to identifying the jihadist who beheaded U.S. journalist James Foley. The killer's British accent had triggered a search by UK officials, and UK ambassador to the U.S., Peter Westmacott, told CNN that his voice is being analyzed by sophisticated American voice recognition technology, saying that a great deal was being put into the search for the Islamic State militant. Reports say the man is believed to be from London and goes by the name of John. Ambassador Westmacott also warned he is just one of an estimated 500 Britons who have traveled to Syria and Iraq to take part in the jihad. And an Englishman who contracted Ebola while living in Sierra Leone has landed in the UK for treatment. He is the first British national to contract the virus in nearly 40 years. Believed to be an aid worker, he flew on a specially equipped Royal Air Force plane to North London, where a dedicated isolation unit at the Royal Free Hospital was prepared for his arrival. Meanwhile, a health worker associated with the World Health Organization has fallen ill from Ebola in Sierra Leone and is receiving care. This as authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo said 2 people there have died from the virus in the country's northwest.
Stay up to date on the latest news out of Korea, connecting to our team of reporters about the issues that matter to Korea. On air, on your mobile, online. Find out more about Korea on Newsline at Noon with Mark Broome and Eoh Jin-joo.
I'm Eoh Jin-joo.
Market researcher, strategy analytics, said Thursday that LG Electronics brought in about 11.
Now, the last time South Korea won the Little League World Series, Back to the Future was taking over the box office, and Madonna had 3 worldwide hits. But the South Korean Little League squad rewrote history on Sunday in Pennsylvania, winning their first championship since 1985. For more on their incredible run, SJ Lee reports.
Call them the Little Giants of baseball, because the South Korean Little League squad finished off their incredible run at the 2014 Little League World Series by beating the U.S. champions Jackie Robinson West of Illinois. After defeating Japan for the second time in this tournament over the weekend, the South Korean Little Leaguers who represented the Asia-Pacific region played a game full of emotion and vigor. Chae-chan's brilliant pitching performance as a reliever and a 4-run sixth inning helped South Korea beat Jackie Robinson West 8-4 to claim their first Little League World Series title in 29 years and their third title overall. For these Little Leaguers, they celebrated like young kids that they are, but played the entire tournament like big leaguers. SJ Lee, Arirang News.
And in more sports news, Korean baseball fans weren't the only ones waking up to great news. Golf fans in the nation are celebrating after Korean golfers finished first, second, and third for a clean sweep at the 2014 LPGA Canadian Pacific Women's Open. Top honors went to 24-year-old Eoh Jin-joo, who won the four-day event with a 23 under par for a winner's check of more than $330,000, and more importantly, her first LPGA title in about 2 years. Chen Ayan finished runner-up, 2 strokes behind Yoo. World number 2 Park In-bi finished third at 18 under a week after winning the LPGA championship.
The Korean period blockbuster Roaring Currents continues to up the local box office ante. It's the most watched movie in Korean film history. It smashed through the 16 million viewer mark on Sunday and looks to go even higher. And as our Kwon So-ah reports, part of its success can be attributed to its visual effects.
The intense naval combat scene depicting the historic Battle of Myeongyang with hundreds of vessels was in reality made using just 4 ships during filming. The backdrop of 330 Japanese ships charging vigorously along with hundreds of soldiers were brought to life with sophisticated 3D computer graphics. Even the sea waves are fake. The battle scene takes up half of the movie, and visual effects were used in over 90% of the filmmaking process.
We had over 60 minutes of a battle scene to depict, with more than 300 vessels, so it is no exaggeration to say that almost all the scenes were made using special effects.
The swirling torrents crashing against the ships and other water movements in particular were hard to create, and they had to make use of what was available. For the speed of the water or direction of the wind, things that were impossible to digitalize, they worked from experience.
With the high level of visual effects being stressed in making movies, we had a long, extensive discussion about solving the technical obstacles. I think we ended up with a satisfactory result.
Korean digital technology is slowly gaining recognition in the cinema industry after years of research and development. It's now being regarded as one of the main reasons for the wild success of the movie Roaring Currents. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Heavy rain is currently pounding some areas down in the south of the country, and heavy rain advisories and warnings have been issued in those areas, while the central parts of the peninsula will just have a light passing drizzles today. So depending on where you are, you could see heavy to light showers throughout the day, and with the overcast skies, temperatures will be much cooler than yesterday, as the high in Seoul and Gwangju will rise to 26, which is about 5 degrees lower than yesterday, while Daegu will rise to 27 and Busan will climb to 25 this afternoon. And for other regions, it looks like Jeju Island will get up to 30, Daejeon will top out at 27, and Dokdo should reach 22 later in the day. While the rain is forecast to clear out in the upper regions in the afternoon, and other areas will see some relief later on as well. And the weather for this week looks to be a bit more promising here in the capital compared to last week. Mostly to partly sunny skies are in store with temperatures hovering in the upper 20s. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
And that does it for now. Mark and I will be back on Tuesday at the same time.
Yes, until then, this has been Newsline at Noon. Have a great start to the week. Goodbye.